Here are the news stories we're covering this week in the Category 5.tv newsroom. The lesson learned from Dutch court: crime does pay. Ransomware thieves have been let off with community service. Another German state plans a switchback from Linux to Windows. Google has followed the lead of Apple by banning crypto mining apps from its Play Store. Microsoft wants to stop Windows 10 updates from annoying you. These stories are coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
Jeff Weston.
Yeah, man.
You're building a brand new, beautiful website.
What?
Aren't you?
No. Am I?
Oh, you're a terrible actor.
What?
This is where acting comes into play.
Oh, I didn't know we were acting.
You're supposed to act.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, I'm building a really cool website. Are you building a really cool website? Just because Jeff is confused doesn't mean you have to be. Visit cat5.tv/dreamhost to sign up for unlimited web hosting for your website with unlimited email accounts, MySQL databases, the latest version of PHP, WordPress, and more, and even a free domain name registration. It's less than $6 per month, so sign up today. cat5.tv/dreamhost.
This is the Category 5.tv newsroom, covering the week's top tech stories with a slight Linux bias.
I'm Becca Ferguson, and here are the top stories we're following this week. Two men who masterminded various CoinVault ransomware infections will carry out 240 hours of community service as punishment for compromising thousands of computers and profiting around $12,000 from their users. The sentence was handed down by a court in Rotterdam, in the Netherlands, where it was ruled brothers Melvin and Dennis van de Bie had earned leniency based on their cooperation with police, lack of a criminal record, and young ages at the time they were collared in 2015. Melvin was 22 and Dennis 18 at the time of their arrest. Prosecutors had asked that they receive a year in prison in addition to the 240 hours of community service. CoinVault surfaced in 2014 as a high-profile scrambling malware. The software encrypted victims' documents and demanded they pay a ransom of 1 Bitcoin, worth a few hundred euros at the time, to restore access to their data. While the pair was only charged with infecting 1,259 machines, researchers have estimated that the actual number of PCs hit with the malware was more like 14,000, with victims in more than 20 countries. It was claimed in court that about 100 people coughed up the ransom demands before antivirus makers were able to develop a decryption tool to unscramble hostage files. The malware would only be eradicated fully in 2015 when the brothers were arrested and the full decryption keys were recovered. Interestingly, it was the pair's Dutch nationality that brought them down. Researchers were able to pinpoint the locality of the authors to the Netherlands after finding snippets of the code containing flawless Dutch phrases that are usually only used by native speakers of the notoriously difficult language. Kaspersky Lab, who helped lead the investigation and eventual takedown of CoinVault, said that despite the lenient sentence, the ultimate takeaway from the 3-year ordeal should be that in the end, extortionists do get caught.
And get 240 hours of community service for something.
Yeah.
Sometimes folks are made to be used as an example. Like let's let people know that, hey, you do not want to go down this route of criminal activity using computers, and this is quite the opposite of that. Where,
yeah,
do you think that they should have a much less lenient sentence?
Well, first of all, what happened with all the money that they collected?
Well, I'd imagine that the courts would have taken it. I mean, they can't have just given them the money. Okay, well, 240 community hours of community service, and now you're rich. You can keep the money in your bank account. No, I don't think that's going to be the case.
But
right?
I mean, did the victims get their money back? That's what I wonder.
Oh. Or did they get their files back? Like, what about the victims that didn't get their files back?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because we're assuming, that the Kaspersky tool that is used to decrypt it, maybe because they've got the master keys, they can, but people are not all going to know that they can reach out and download a program to decrypt their files. By then, maybe they've moved on and taken the loss. Or maybe some companies were put out of business by it. Think about a small company whose entire file system was encrypted, and they didn't have the money to cough up a Bitcoin that went up to $1,900 in value, and then they went out of maybe they went out of business.
Yeah.
That
I don't know.
happens.
I wonder what a comparable sentence would be for shoplifting, like just in terms of dollars
Yeah.
and cents. If you stole X number of dollars from a store versus crypto
Sure.
coins.
So $12,000 from a store. Are you
Yeah.
going to get just 240 hours of community service? No, you'd be spending some time in jail.
Yeah.
For sure. If you walked
So-
into a bank and took $12,000, do you think you're going to just do community service? I feel like it's a...
It does seem
very
like a
lenient.
very, very slight sentence.
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe the judge didn't think it was that big of a deal. I don't know.
Perhaps.
Maybe if it was if they had stolen more than 12,000, maybe that was a deciding factor. Like if they had stolen $1 million, maybe they would have gone to jail.
And I think that the along that vein, the fear with that mindset is that they didn't go out and steal a targeted $12,000. No, they let loose a piece of malware that could have caused, that did cause a lot of damage for a lot of people and a lot of companies.
Yeah.
And so they got away with $12,000, say, but what about the damages? What about the damage that cannot be seen or calculated or measured? That's where, I think that maybe they should have taken that more into account versus, oh, these young chaps were just having some fun, doing what kids do these days, hacking. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? I don't like people being used as an example per se, but maybe this was a little bit too lenient. Certainly I would be feeling that way if I was one of the people who got attacked by their ransomware.
Yeah. The German state of Lower Saxony plans to follow Munich's example and migrate 13,000 users from Linux back to Windows. Apparently undaunted by the cost of the Munich switch, which we reported in January, could be as much as 100 million euros. Lower Saxony is considering making the change in its tax office. The state seems to expect a much cheaper transition, with a first-year budget at 5.9 million euros and another 7 million euros further out. The tax office argues its decision is driven by compatibility. Field workers and teleworkers overwhelmingly use Windows, while the OpenSUSE variants are installed on its Office workstations. The Office workstations are also aging and due for replacement, something that helped open the door for Windows. The move is in its early stages, however, with the Lower Saxony government currently defining the framework conditions of the migration, and this will be followed by a pre-selection of possible solutions. We can only hope that Lower Saxony has a better time of it than Munich. After 15 years of using Linux, Munich voted in February of 2017 to start the long march back to Microsoft. Some Microsoft software proved hard to kill even after so long. For example, Munich stayed with Microsoft Exchange for mail servers.
Okay, so we've got an IT crew that maybe doesn't know about these software alternatives that we've talked about on the show. For example, Microsoft Exchange. So if Microsoft Exchange has got them held up, why aren't we looking at Zimbra? Like an alternative that is available that is not a proprietary Microsoft product.
Yeah.
We had a talk on episode number 568 of Category 5 Technology TV, you and I, about the kind of the alternate compatible software, looking at Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint versus LibreOffice, and Linux versus Windows, and being able to use and finding that there is a lot of cross-compatibility. But if you're used to Microsoft Windows and that's what you use at home, you might come into LibreOffice and say, oh, every time I save a document, nobody can open them, or I can't open them at home. So what's the solution to that?
Just to save it as a .docs, X, or whatever.
To save it as the correct format for the one that you're trying to open it in. So if you're going to open it in Word, save it as a docx.
And when you go to save, it gives you a whole list of ways that you can save it.
Millions of file
So if you just
formats.
scroll through, you would see the option that you wanted. So it's not like you even have to be told to do this or Google this. It's right there in the options when you go to save.
Yeah. So
The default, of course, is going to be
open document format.
Yeah,
ODF.
that's the default. But you just click the arrow down to see what your options are and then pick.
And pick Microsoft Word if that's what you need compatibility for. So there's always an alternative. So to think of the amount of money being invested in this switch, and quite frankly, if hardware is aging, we've found that aging hardware works really, really well with Linux versus Microsoft Windows. Like Microsoft Windows is always pushing for, and we did experience this recently with, and Becca's my wife, by the way, if you didn't know this. We experienced this recently with your laptop, where even on Linux, we're starting to see that, but because there are so many different flavors, we can switch. And the story behind that is Becca's running Ubuntu on her aging laptop, but the laptop is still great. But a kernel update deprecated some ACPI drivers that make it compatible with her laptop. So now we have to actually edit the grub bootloader, and there is a little bit of fandangling to make it compatible, and it causes a couple of little minor issues, like the volume control button's not working now and things like that.
Well, and it wouldn't boot.
Yeah, but
a minor issue.
Yeah, but that's, we can fix that, editing the grub bootloader, but you may not know that if you're just a novice user. For sure. So, but looking at that and saying, okay, well, if Ubuntu is pushing forward like Microsoft to push you toward newer hardware, and your hardware is still great and works great and does everything you need it to do, it's not slow by any stretch, it works really well. So we could just grab a different flavor of Linux. We don't have to keep on Ubuntu. We can just change to another distro. Even if we want to just put Debian on it and flavor it the way that you want, install Mate and make it look good and make it work really well, and then we've got compatibility for another few years. So if hardware deprecation is part of it, sure, there comes a time when you've got to replace it, but Linux is going to get a lot more longevity on any hardware than Windows is. Guaranteed. So that's not an excuse. Come on.
Google has followed the lead of Apple by banning crypto mining from apps from its Play Store. An update to the company's developer policy reads, "We don't allow apps that mine cryptocurrency on devices." The company had previously banned cryptocurrency mining extensions on its Chrome browser. This move marks another step by banks and tech companies trying to get to grips with the practicalities of cryptocurrencies. The ban does not extend to all software involved with mining virtual cash. Google, like Apple, said it would allow people to make apps that let them manage mining being done elsewhere, such as on cloud computer platforms. When mining is done on device, there is a risk that the smartphone will overheat as a result of intense processing. The mining can also quickly deplete batteries. Some malware gangs have also moved to adopt cryptocurrency mining. Many poorly protected websites have had mining code inserted on them to use visitors' computers to generate the cash. The cryptocurrency mining restrictions are one of several changes Google has made to its developer policies.
Okay. There's one I got to disagree with.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts below. I think what we're doing is exactly the opposite of what we should be doing. And by we, I mean Google. Think about psychologically what we're doing here. So anyone who wants to mine, they're now being forced to move over to a rooted phone so that they can gain access to mining software if they want to mine on their phone. So there are two spectrums for mining. There's the malicious miner, so somehow malware keeps getting coupled in with crypto mining and making crypto mining look like malware. It's not. So yeah, remove all the malware from Google Play that mines software without the user's permission. But if I'm a user who wants to mine cryptocurrency and I want to use my phone to do so, you're not going to get a very good hash rate, but if that's what you want to do, you want to do it, so let me do it. That's a completely different thing. So if I install a video game and that video game is mining in the background without my permission, that should be banned.
Yeah.
If I am mining TurtleCoin and I want to mine it on my phone, I should be able to install that software because I want that. Okay? So there are entire communities of people who are constantly asking in the forums, how can I mine this cryptocurrency on my phone? What do I need to install? How do I get this set up? And if we now remove all that capability from Google Play, Now, in order for those users to be able to mine on their phone, they have to root their phone. By rooting their phone and by using illicit software now, because now we've made that software illicit, they're opening themselves up to malware.
Yeah.
Because now it's only available in the hacked store. So now, who knows whether it's doing other things in the background that I'm not giving it permission to do.
Yeah.
That's a risk. So I wish that they would stop coupling cryptocurrency mining with malware.
Yeah.
They're not synonymous at all. Unfortunately, crypto mining is just something that malware has been using because it makes them money.
Yeah.
But it also makes me money. So stay away from my mining software. I don't mine on my phone because, like they say, it could overheat, and it could, but that's a choice that a user makes if they want to do that. But if they started blocking software on my computers and things like that, then that would be a big issue.
Yeah.
So, you seem to agree wholeheartedly. You're like, our cryptocurrency portfolio is doing pretty good, so I don't want this to stop. What do you think? Are you mining cryptocurrency? And if you are you doing it on your phone? And does this affect you? And how? Be interesting to hear from the community as to whether or not this affects you.
Microsoft is finally doing something about the way Windows 10 handles updates, and it's using machine learning to accomplish the task. If it's successful, updating Windows 10 should, in the future, become much less annoying. Windows 10
That'd be nice.
Windows 10 can be a little aggressive when installing updates. Unless you know how to manage Windows 10 updates, they'll come thick and fast and start installing when you least expect it, possibly rebooting your PC at an inopportune moment. Microsoft has a plan up its sleeve to prevent this from happening, and it's being tested right now by Windows 10 insiders. The key is artificial intelligence, which Microsoft hopes will be able to accurately predict when the time is right to install updates. If all goes well in testing, the new system should reach ordinary Windows 10 users later in early 2019. Windows Insider Chief Donna Sarkar asked in a blog post, "Have you ever had to stop what you were doing or wait for your computer to boot up because the device updated at the wrong time?" To which everyone replied yes. Microsoft has listened to this feedback, so if you have an update pending, we've updated our reboot logic to use a new system that is more adaptive and proactive. We trained a predictive model that can accurately predict when the right time to restart the device is. This means that Microsoft will not only check if you are currently using your device before we restart, but we will also try to predict if you had just left the device to grab a cup of coffee and will return shortly. Or at least that's the plan. Is Microsoft's approach going to work for users? We'll have to wait and see until we can see it working in the wild to know.
Okay, so I understand the motivation behind this. People are annoyed that their computers, you haven't been using Windows for a long time, so
no.
You've heard stories.
Well, you do it for work. You have customers that use Windows, and so you have frequently messaged me to say, oh, these
Facebook,
Windows, I'm sitting here waiting for Windows updates. And, and my sister too has occasionally complained that she's in the middle of doing something important on her laptop and then a Windows update starts. And then she has to come back to it the next day because suddenly her evening's lost to the update.
Yeah, Sasha's work computer, she, because I go in and I get a chiropractic adjustment, and she said that there was an issue with one of the monitors, the resolution wasn't correct. Could I just take a quick look at it? It would take me 15 seconds to correct the resolution on a monitor. We turned it on. Please wait. Don't shut down your computer. Wait. So I sat there for a few minutes, and it was like at 2%, 3%. And then I'm like, oh, I got to get my adjustment and go. It's time for work. And I didn't actually get to do it. I didn't actually get to fix it for them. So like that is so frustrating. But Microsoft's approach is this. Let's look at something broken, and instead of fixing it, let's try to do it at times when it's not going to affect the user as badly. But okay, so you're going to reboot at 3 o'clock in the morning. I had a notepad window with all my, with my shopping list open, and I didn't save it before. So now that's gone. Or just to give you a scenario, maybe I had something up that is now lost, or I have a lot of stuff open on my computer when I leave work. and I know this is what I'm going to come back to tomorrow, and I'm going to pick up where I left off, and I come back and everything's closed. It's gone. Hi, we rebooted your computer because our stupid AI decided that it was time. So let's look at Linux for a moment with slight Linux bias, right? That's what we have. But there's a reason for the bias. It's not just like cliche or anything like that. We get updates all the time. How often do we have to reboot? Because the answer is not often, because the Linux update system will update in the background. You can do an apt upgrade whenever you want to. It'll ask you if you want to do an upgrade right now, and then when it's done, it'll say done. Sometimes it'll say
sometimes
you need to reboot.
it says you need to reboot, but
does it force
it? Will
it?
give you the option to do it later.
Yeah.
Like it says, do you want to reboot now or later?
Yeah, I'll just wait until the end of my shift.
Yeah.
No problem. And it lets you do that. That's how it should be. So Microsoft's approach is to say, let's take the option away from the user. Let's take that whole, Linux's approach to, would you like to reboot now or would you like to reboot later? That's the way I think it should be. Microsoft is saying, okay, the user can't make that decision because they are... and we know better, so let's use our AI to make the decision. So we'll say to the AI, would you like to reboot now or later? Why are we taking this approach?
It also feels like a privacy issue because
monitoring if I'm getting a cup of coffee.
Now they know when you're on your computer, when you're not. They know all your activity.
Welcome to Windows 10. Yeah, that's all part of it.
They could sort of track you through your computer activity.
Yeah.
We know so-and-so is always on the computer at such and such a time for this amount of time, and when he's not,
that's when we'll reboot. But why are we taking it away from the user and making it an AI decision when it should just be, would you like to reboot now or would you like to do it at your own convenience? Because Windows has this thing that when it updates, everything breaks unless you reboot.
For one thing, though, I can say, being on Linux, I know that there are updates that are needed to be installed, but I can go days where I just keep forgetting and I don't do it.
I'll just keep putting that off.
Sometimes a couple weeks before I get around to doing it. So maybe they just don't.
But are those not the couple of weeks where I'm really busy, I don't have time to
I am busy.
Right.
Occasionally
I've had the decision. You are the AI because you're the user. Don't take that away from me. Yeah, well,
it's a control issue. They don't want to leave it up to the user. They just want to be in full control.
Yeah.
Because I've occasionally had things stop working properly, and then I think, oh, I'll try installing updates.
Yep.
I do that, and then it fixes it.
It's all better.
But I don't know. Just seems like a control issue. They don't want to leave it up to the user.
Yeah.
To do it.
And I have to disagree. That's where Windows Update is failing. It's not that it's not the annoyance of me having to reboot during the business day. It's that Microsoft is taking away my choice.
Yeah.
Don't take away my choice. That's what ticks me off as a user. That's what ticks off my customers who are on Windows 10. Not whether or not an AI says I should reboot at 3 a.m. That's not the right way to go. That's my opinion. What do you think? I'd love to see your comments below. If you agree, give me a thumbs up. If you don't agree, just go somewhere else. No thumbs down. Come on.
Or if you don't agree, comment and explain why.
I'm with her.
Start a conversation.
That's perfect.
Big thanks to Roy W. Nash and our community of viewers for submitting stories to us this week. Thanks for watching the Category5.tv newsroom. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all your tech news with a slight Linux bias. And for more content, be sure to check out our website. From the Category5.tv newsroom, I'm Becca Ferguson.
And I'm Robbie Ferguson. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. We will be back with our regular live show next Wednesday night. And of course, if you're watching this on demand, probably doesn't affect you when we pre-record, but we look forward to seeing you and interacting with our chat room again next week. So have a great week, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.